Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so now any ideas about how do we move from, how do we first undo all of this so that this becomes very natural and spontaneous?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
I started thinking about it not long ago. I had to somehow, I haven't had like a health issue. I don't know what happened, but somehow the American doctors just do not leave me alone some reason. But anyway, I wanted to do something different at the moment, and I just wanted to simply ask myself, what can I help you? You know, how can I help you right this moment? I'm asking myself, and then somehow me said, actually, I want to go to the beach and then have a lunch there and just sit down there for a while, you know. And funny thing is that I left the beach like half an hour ago, not too far yet. I hardly go there because so busy, and I really kind of wanted to do it somehow. So I drive to beach and then with my picnic little food, and I sat down there, just sat there for many hours. And then I noticed that my mind become very calm. And then, because I kind of do the things I like to do and allow me to do it, for some reason mind becomes really calm and satisfied and quiet. And I like that. And in the end, I feel like a lot of freedom from other things. And then I can actually think what to do, what I need to do next. So it gives me a lot of, but it's not easy because, you know, it's because so busy, it's difficult. I noticed something, how come, you know, to come to the beach, how come it took that long, like a couple of years to just come, we're only half an hour away from where I live. So what I did was asking myself what I like to do, and then listen that and do it, and somehow then my mind becomes calm, and then helps me to what next I need to do to solve the problems that I have.
Yeah, very good. So what Sue is saying is that there is a certain education that we all have, which is like an autopilot program, that you have to work hard and you have to be busy from morning to evening, and you know, so we get into this way of thinking and everybody else is doing it, and something as simple as going to the beach, which was half an hour, it took her 2 years, right? So many things we don't follow our this body is an intelligent mechanism, this mind is an intelligent mechanism, and Ishvara's order is all pervasive, but we get so busy with our own world and our own created world that we stop enjoying something which can very easily be done. This is what we call self-denial. Right? Who prevented her from going to the beach? Nobody, right? And she could always, anytime you can find 1 hour or 2 hours, but there is a self-denial, and that self-denial is because of your self-conditioning and drive, which is constantly. Also, there is a habit within the mind which, externally, people tell you that you're good if you do this and if you do that, right? This is how we have learnt from a young age. And later on, our mind starts doing it to ourselves. So it's not externally people are telling you, you are good if you do this. If you become spiritual, you create the same thing. I am good, I am spiritual if I am not angry. If I don't. Do you understand this? It's always your acceptance of yourself is always conditional. Even for within, what I want to show you is we only replace one thing with the other. We don't change. Right? We are so used to feeling, creating pressure, and our acceptance of ourselves is always conditional. And that is something which is, we never come out of that conditioning. So slowly, what we have to learn is there is so much self-imposed conditioning. Based on your idea of what is spirituality, your idea of what is considered assimilation of knowledge. These are all your ideas. So we are caught. We just keep replacing one thought with the other, but we are still caught in our own thoughts.
Yeah.
And slowly to kind of come out of your own thought world and let this amazing wisdom, which is the truth, enter you, right? And just become, and that is how it is. But your mind, when it is so preoccupied with its own ways of looking at things, own ways of thinking, own beliefs, it will not come. It'll come. It's not that it's not going to come, but it's going to come partially, not totally. It's not going to blossom because there is no space. So that is why the first thing that is, it will come here. It is a beautiful value. I will talk about it a little bit when it comes in the values, which is be aware of your self-talk to yourself. What are you telling yourself? And what are the self-imposed conditionings, right? That you, which restricts you, which doesn't allow you to enjoy the freedom.
It is something I noticed that on that day. So there is, massive ocean right there.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it
Yeah.
for a few minutes maybe.
Yeah.
And then immediately I went to focus on the waves. Because the oceans doesn't move and massive. It's not interesting anymore after a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And my eyes kept going to the waves.
Because they move and
Yes.
there's action.
And I thought, hold on a minute. I noticed that something moves, there's something drama, something up and down. My intention goes to
There.
that. And this huge, massive, calm ocean, couple of minutes, I get bored.
Yeah, and then you move back to your, exactly. So this is how it happens also in the classes. You get glimpse of who you are, and but then as soon as you walk out, then what? The mind keeps going back to these waves of the stories of how is lunch and what am I going to do later? Where is the next massage or whatever? And it's okay. I mean, but what happens is that seems more real than the reality. So this is how. So yeah, absolutely. So it's good. Anybody else? What?
Yeah, I could tell something. I call it self-inquiry, actually.
Yeah.
So, what is the situation? There is some collision, with an environment, situation, or person,
Yeah.
and causes a problem. So then, what I learned from Vedanta and from psychoanalysis and so on, then I take a step back and look at the problem for a little distance. And then I acknowledge that the problem is in me. So just taking responsibility. That's a big step.
That's a big step. Yeah.
And then I'm stuck with myself.
Yeah.
So then I think, okay, this is the problem. How does it serve me? And then I come to a deep pain, and I leave it there, because that pain is teaching me. That's the way I'm doing it. Because I want, if you want to appease the pain, or want to rationalize the pain, then I'm going too far. That's my experience. I stay with the pain, and works quite well. So because no one wants pain. So I have pain because of my own conditioning.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's the way I'm working these days.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. The external world can't create pain. It is your processing of what is going on that creates pain, and that is so true. And we have so much pain because of wrong processing of information, And this Bhagavad Gita is all about that, right? So it starts with something quite interesting. Arjuna is a prince, and he is highly accomplished, he is very dharmic, he is a good human being, and he breaks down. Why does he break down? Because he sees, he knew that this war was inevitable, because Duryodhana is being so unfair. When Lord Krishna goes to negotiate, right, he's not willing to part with an inch of land. So that is, there was no room for any accommodation or any negotiation. So war was inevitable, but the visual of seeing his own cousins, seeing his own grandfather, seeing his own teacher on the opposite side, right? He just breaks down. And when he breaks down, he doesn't have, generally when we break down, we have a tendency to hide it. He makes no attempt to hide it. He tells Lord Krishna very candidly, my hands are shaking, my mouth is drying, my head is turning around. He doesn't have any shame. He says exactly what he feels. And I'm just totally confused. But in that state of confusion, Bhagavad Gita is a brilliant book. It's just levels within levels within levels within levels. Simple story, right? Even within the first chapter. At that level of confusion and sorrow, and he's able to talk very candidly about what he's feeling, his mind still goes and thinks about the larger repercussions. And what are the larger, after he talks about his cousins and all, the verses, I'm talking based on the verses, it's not my thinking, right? The verses talk about Arjuna is then telling Lord Krishna that not only my cousins and all my loved ones are on the opposite side, but there are so many other people, who are on the other side. There are a lot of soldiers. And if I were to win the war, I have to kill them all. So in that state of trauma, he's still able to think about, right, what his action is going to do is to kill many, many other people, not just his loved ones. It's not only about people that I love. Then his mind goes even further, and he then talks about after the war, what kind of society there would be. Most of the men will be dead. There will be only widows and orphans. And I will be the one, and my family will be the one who will be ruling that kingdom. What kind of a kingdom? Totally dysfunctional kingdom. And what pleasure we will get out of ruling this kingdom where nothing is working, all the systems are fallen. Then he talks about, look at where all his mind goes in the state of what he was emotionally feeling. Then he talks about that, if I am the one who creates so much confusion through my actions, so much pain is going to be experienced and so much disharmony in the world, what will be the consequences for me? Now, when we listen to Arjuna, How many of you disagree with what Arjuna is saying?
Don't disagree.
Nobody. He does, right? But mostly, how does it sound?
Beautiful, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds beautiful. What a person, right?
Very
A hero.
Very dharmic, very like a hero,
Yeah.
right? Who is able to, he's totally cognitively very lucid. He's also emotionally very much in touch. He's not in denial. Very balanced, dharmic. So he has dharma with him. He has cognitive capacity because he's able to think through so many things. He has also emotional intelligence.
Responsible.
He is responsible. He's in every given way. He is what? We are all impressed by how he is.
And he is detached.
And he is, yeah, and he's not thinking about, oh, my power, and I will be the king and I will have this kingdom. He's not thinking about that at all. That doesn't seem to matter to him. So, we think that he was right. Does Lord Krishna agree with him? No. Because if Lord Krishna agreed with him, there would be no Bhagavad Gita.
Then you know
There is
Otto always says, it will not rain because I have an umbrella. It's so funny.
Right. So that means even though we all are so impressed by his thoughts, but they are not the right thoughts. That is brilliant, I tell you. So, then what is Lord Krishna talking about then? What could Lord Krishna say to Arjuna which is wiser than what Arjuna is thinking about?
He sees the whole.
Sees the whole. He totally shifts his perspective by saying that, hey, it's not about your brother and your father and your cousin and your whatever. It's all about a much larger picture. And what is a larger picture? You are a prince. You're born in a family of a kshatriya. So your job is to protect the kingdom. And within this, right, you are not just one of the kshatriyas, you are a leader. And there is a situation here that the king of Hastinapura is unrighteous. And he has just usurped the kingdom unfairly. And he is so unreasonable. He is not willing to even negotiate a little. And if this kind of a person rules the kingdom, right, who is only self-absorbed, who is only thinking about his own well-being and, his power, what kind of a king he would be and what impact would there be on the kingdom? And not everybody is in a position to oppose because they don't have enough power to oppose somebody as strong as Duryodhana. But within the grand scheme of things, you are placed in a way that you can challenge him. And if you don't do that, just because you are emotionally and you are thinking about, something, what will happen? If you allow an unrighteous king who is only interested in his own power, to just give him a free hand and say, you do what you feel like doing, nobody is going to resist. What happens? If we begin to live like that in a society, what kind of society we will create? Disaster. So Arjuna, look at the situation not from one little individual who's trying to be nice. Do you understand?
Yeah.
He was trying to be nice because he says, they are all my loved ones. And he was nice. He's a good human being.
Happy not to be in that situation.
Good.
Would be
very difficult to kill people that you like or love.
That is true. But that's why, see, please understand, this is something which is very, very important. Is Lord Krishna asking us all to kill people? No. What is the message? You first have to understand what the message is. What is he telling? What is he asking Arjuna to do? Is he asking Arjuna to fight, or is he asking Arjuna to do what needs to be done in that given situation, given his place in the scheme of things? Do you understand? Not everybody is a leader, right? Not everybody is a kshatriya, not everybody is a leader, not everybody has a response. That person is situated in that unique place in the grand scheme of things. And from that place, that is what the person has to do. It's got nothing to do with asking everybody else to do that. So, higher positions, higher places in the society go with more responsibilities and at times more personal sacrifices. And you see that, right? Nelson Mandela could have said, as South Africans, why should I go to jail? I want to live nicely within my family. Why should I spend so much of my life being a leader, working for freedom of South Africa? Not everybody can do it, but there has to be one Nelson Mandela. And that one Nelson Mandela has to see beyond his own family and the family well-being.
We have a similar situation in Europe with Ukraine and Russia. But still, I find it an extremely difficult decision.
Yeah, see, the thing is, what we need to understand is, you're not you're a citizen, you can have an opinion. I'm not saying you don't have an opinion. But your opinion is not what happens in the world. There is a person sitting in that position of decision making.
Yeah.
So you and him don't enjoy the same place in the grand scheme of things. We all can have hundreds of opinions, right? Even during COVID, right? So every Indian, all of us, obviously we see suffering and we complain, and we always, who is the easiest person to project on? The person in power, right? So the government is not doing this, and people are dying and people are like this. But, there is this person out there, he has to make some choices, and the choices are very, very difficult. And you can't please everyone all at the same time. You have to take calls. And we are so easily dismissive of them.
Yeah. And there is also, in this case, with the Ukraine and Russia, there is a history.
There is a whole
history. That's also, so it's not just this moment what we see.
What you see, exactly. So this is why what Lord Krishna is talking about is, please understand, he's not saying all of you, everybody has to fight. He's saying, Arjuna, you're in this given position. And that position requires a certain response which may not be the same as everybody else. And if life gives you that position, if you are able to go beyond your personal likes and emotions and personal dislikes and see the situation from a larger perspective and seeing your role in the situation, and you're able to do that, even though it may create some discomfort in you, then you're growing, you're evolving as a human being. Because it's hard, it's not easy.
It also feels like Krishna is saying to him, if you don't act, what will you enable?
You
by
don't
not
act?
acting, what will you enable to happen?
Yeah.
To think about that too.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Because the forces are such that you have to play your part, and if you don't play your part, somehow things has to happen, but you create disharmony. So this is why, see, and what is the message for all of us? We are not all Arjuna, but we all have our unique place in the grand scheme of things. And within that place, you have to learn to become a contributor, whatever it is. Because if you don't become a contributor, if you don't enlarge in your vision, and if you don't look at your life in a larger context, you will always feel small and insignificant. You will feel small and insignificant.
I can't hear the word, I don't get it.
Yeah, so let me give you an example by what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying is something that I have observed, that there are many women who don't work, right? I don't know, in Europe maybe everybody works, but in India many don't work, and they feel as though nowadays there is this whole new thing that your self-worth is based on the kind of job you have. So they are very apologetic about I'm just a housewife, and that's how. So what, I'm not doing anything important. That is their feeling about themselves. And I tell them that, the same role you can play. And you can say, I'm raising, suppose you have kids, right? I'm raising kids and I'm trying my best to make them responsible citizens of a country. You are doing the same thing. But the scales of your vision about what you are doing has changed, and when those scales have changed, you will give your best. You will not feel unimportant. You will not feel small. So, what Lord Krishna is saying is, if that little shift in your vision of what I have a unique place in the grand scheme of things, I'm not non-important. Even though it may seem as though what I'm doing is insignificant, that thing has to be done. Because you yourself, your survival depends upon acts of so many people. So, simple thing like I'm drinking, right, water from this bottle. How many people have contributed to make it happen? How many people have worked?
Designer, factory.
Yeah, first of all, the sun has participated, the rivers have participated, whatever the source of water is. Then somebody transported the water, somebody filtered the water, somebody, brought created a machine to filter.
Are you talking about
There is a whole system out there.
codependence?
If one person doesn't do its job, the guy who is in the assembly line, who doesn't check the accuracy of filter because he's bored, it's monotonous job for him. Assembly line, boring. If he operates from this place, which is his story, which is not completely wrong story, if he doesn't see his role in a larger context, how many people will suffer with a wrong, a poor filtration of water, contaminated water? He may never see all the people who are contaminated. So he thinks, I'm just bored. That's where his story ends. We never look at our life from a grand the greater vision of things. Whatever, it doesn't mean we all have to become a leader, we all have to become Arjuna. As I told you, you can be a housewife, you can change the way you look at yourself and your role in the grand scheme of things. Either you are doing nothing or you tell yourself, I'm building human beings. And do it with all your heart and give your best.
And should I resist when I see there's something going wrong from another?
Yeah, that's a biggest, and that also then see it's this is a very interesting question, right? Suppose I'm doing my things, right, and I have a larger vision, but I don't have control over everybody else. So everybody else may be operating from their little vision. So and I'm connected to them. Suppose I'm working in a company or I'm working at home, I'm connected to them, and so what do I do? That is a very big question. What do you think? What do you do? What is your responsibility?
You do what you can.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, sometimes I feel I have to say something, and also sometimes I feel I don't have to say something.
Situative, I think.
I think it's situation specific, right? There is no one response which we always, and that is what we call viveka. Discrimination, right? Ability to assess. And even our responses don't come from our pressure and our anger, but a larger perspective. Do you understand that? Arjuna could have fought the war either from the place that, oh, my cousins have been so mean to me and I want to take a revenge, or he could have fought looking at the whole larger picture and his responsibility. Which is the place from where you are coming from? Is it a place of duties and responsibilities or anger and dissatisfaction? Because if it comes from anger and dissatisfaction, you're dismissive.
Yeah. I have a wonderful situation. I'm a grandmom, but my daughter-in-law would not allow me to see the children, or very, very little. So I struggled with that I could not be grandmom.
Yeah.
But and that was very hard and painful. And finally, but it was not that I could be the grandma that I wished to be. No, that she would never allow. But there was like compromises, talking, and yeah. So it worked out because when I made the fist in the beginning, I was angry. Then she would just use a power position. You're not going to see my children. It was my. And you see the my struggle, that you lose it all.
You lose it all.
Yeah. So it worked out fine at the end.
See, otherwise what happens, I have seen it in my own work life, right? A young person enters from the university, and they think that they are all bright and they are all rebellious and they idealistic and all. And they see a system where they see some problems and they become rebel and they are highly critical. Now what happens is they want to change the whole system. And this system doesn't change. So then what happens is they get frustrated. And as they get frustrated, what happens is their performance comes down. So you are fighting the system, but you are also not performing. Do you understand? And we are still caught in this thing that, oh, people are all at fault. But we are never able to look at my performance is going down because every day I enter the place with anger, with frustration, dismissive attitude, and I'm still taking money from the same company. But we are just only looking at the situation is that I know it all and I'm very good, but everybody else is bad. This is such a common human failure. So that means there is no rule whether you intervene or not. Sometimes you have to, sometimes you don't, right? And while you do it, you understand your place in the grand scheme of things. What is your role? And even if you do it out of a larger sense of responsibility rather than just anger and frustration. And also look at that frustration that you are carrying, what impact it has on your own performance. So that is the whole range of things the psyche has to understand. Otherwise, we are always partial in our assessment of things. And our partial assessment is not totally wrong, but it's not complete. Like Arjuna was not totally wrong. All of us thought that he is such a responsible human being, but it was not total. It didn't include much larger understanding. So in any given situation, right, you have your standpoint, but what is the attempt to see the situation? Your standpoint may not be wrong, but that may not be the total. So just expand a little bit, see the larger picture, and make sure that you don't get carried away by your ideas, your opinions, and see the reality as much as possible from a larger perspective and discern what needs to be done. And there is not one thing that always needs to be done. That's why it keeps you busy in life. You can't say I always have to do this. Every situation requires a new response. That keeps you alert. It keeps you engaged. And you constantly keep challenging yourself. You don't feel bored. And you make your life on, just you evolve, you see things differently, you try new things, you free yourself from your past conditioning and your orientations. That life becomes fun, interesting. Because what is a project? Evolving yourself constantly. Not trying to change the world. And as you evolve, there is a magic. And what is the magic? People get attracted to you because you are not like anybody else. And you become source of inspiration. You become a role model. Fun life. Right? So our life has to become enjoyable, responsible, challenge yourself, challenge your thinking. Move out of your this thing and see the world from a different perspective and do participate. Don't become redundant in the name of spirituality.
Just one question. When people talk about this situation, what to do, and most people answers is very complex, complicated. That's a start with.
Yeah.
For example, if you want to see the big picture,
Yeah.
This person perhaps need to learn around the 1,000 people, employees indeed. However, this person also a father or mother has few kids, whatever.
Yeah.
So the bigger picture, obviously this person has to be responsible with 1,000 people's employees. But still this person is a mother or a father. And also not only that, a friend, very smaller version of an individual as well. So, bigger picture, how do we know, for example, obviously, when you are taking care of this in a company, if we cannot take care of your family, and mostly they're not great CEO or whatever, if they, so like if you don't take care of your family, but you cannot really take care of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, see, evolution, evolving as a human being, this is a interesting thing, right? What is the message that you have to give yourself? Is it all about sacrificing your personal life to do good to others? That's not Lord Krishna is saying. That is a name for, it's called martyr. What is a martyr?
Yeah.
A martyr is what?
Martelij.
Yeah.
What is a martyr? That you kind of self-sacrifice to do good to others? Is that the meaning?
Well, it's more like punishing yourself.
Punishing yourself, right? Yeah. So here when we talk about, exactly, right? When we talk about evolving, we are not talking about being a martyr. We are not talking about always not keeping our interest, not thinking about our family, only doing something for others. It's not a self-sacrifice place, That's not what is the teaching. But generally what happens is that we only think about ourselves and we don't think about anything beyond that. So if your thinking it's not like this versus this. Look at this. When I say something like this, our mind creates. Either it is my little interest or it is larger interest. So if I have to think about larger interest, I have to give up my interest. This is a mental image we create. But what Vedanta is talking about is, in the larger picture, you are also there. Don't think that you are outside the larger picture. But generally what happens is, we are so caught only in this, and we only make all our decisions from here, but this person can look at the larger picture and can not only benefit oneself, but also many others. So here it is not this or this, because you are also part of the bigger picture. So what it then means is, you have to see your well-being in the well-being of a larger thing, because that's really the truth. So what it means is, so either your mind can say, suppose you're a business entrepreneur, right? And you say that, if I use this cheap technology, I'll make more profit. And it's true. Your bank account will definitely increase. It's a very visible thing. But if I think about the environment and this and that and eco-friendly and all, now my costs will go up. And and then so this, and who knows what kind of environment, and right now nothing is so tangible. So either as an entrepreneur you only think about your profit, or you then you say thinking about big issues leads to reduction of my profit. So that means what you see yourself as outside that system, and you want to benefit yourself, and the system, it can kind of be relegated to a secondary place. But if you see yourself within the system, you can say, perhaps I can make more money. Sure, I can. But perhaps what will happen is that by polluting the environment, not only me, but my grandchildren can get asthma. And they will suffer. So what it means is that please don't create that this is not taking care of the environment is not only good for the society, it's also good for you, because you are part of that society. So the scales of vision have to change. Everything we think about as our whole orientation is me versus the world. Either I do good for the world and self-sacrifice, or I only think about myself and ignore the world. But the starting point itself is wrong. Me versus the world. Because you are within the world. You are part of the system. So when you're doing good to the system, don't think that you are making self-sacrifice. By doing good to the system, you benefit yourself.
And that's, to me, the definition of self-love.
That is self-love. Nobody is asking you to be this so-called spiritual sacrifice. Those days are gone. Nobody wants to be this, oh, poor me, I make a self-sacrifice for the world, for the humanity. That story is outdated. Make it win-win situation. That's clever. You win, and all, but don't be so small, right? You make everything else also shine. Find ways like that. Get your mind to think like that. And not this versus this. That is a division that is created by us as human beings. The world is undivided whole. Me and the world is our creation. You are part of the system. The more you harm the system, you harm yourself. The more you take care of the system, you nourish yourself. The whole scales of, that's why Vedanta is revolutionary. It's not a quick fix. Your whole scales of vision have to change. And you have to then first change it cognitively, then you have to live by that.
So there are people that you don't get along,
Yeah.
but you understand that there was the self. There's
Yeah.
no difference between you and I. However, I don't get along.
Yeah, that's okay. See, everything is one. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with everyone. Even Lord Krishna, right? Was he equal between Kauravas and Pandavas? Not really. He definitely was more friendly with Pandavas. Within Pandavas, who was his favorite? Arjun. Does it make him a person who was biased or prejudiced or anything like that? Is it against the vision that everything is one? No. If there are 5 pots, one is small, one is big, one is white, one is black. In order for me to recognize that all that is here is clay, do I have to make them identical? I don't have to make them identical. They are different, and they are different. The forms are different. You can't make the forms the same. But the truth is, everything is clay. Your relationship with the forms can be different. You prefer contemporary, design. Somebody else prefers a traditional design. That's what makes life interesting. Otherwise, it will be boring and monotonous. If all the forms were equal, it will be boring. What is fun is all the forms are different. They have different characteristics. They have different, you like one, you don't like somebody else, like something else. The whole thing is a big thing. And within that, if you look at it, all that is here is one. That is the truth. You don't have to make the forms identical or your relationship with the forms identical to understand oneness.
But what we learn,
I'm still thinking about what you said about conditioning.
Yes.
So being aware of my
Yes,
conditioning.
conditioning is very important.
What's the next step?
Yeah. So now,
Being aware of my conditioning.
being conditioning, and then
what?
and then what? And then what? Now think about it. Then what?
I don't know. question.
Big question, exactly. So then slowly, I think that little challenging yourself, see, that can itself become a very, very interesting project for you, without pressure, without, oh, I'm conditioned, so I have to change, not without heaviness. If you can make it like a play with yourself, where you are finding ways to free yourself from this conditioning gently, by finding ways, what are the other possibilities? How can I behave? Today, how can I do little differently? Right? Without creating heaviness around it, then that itself becomes a constant project that you can never get tired of, self-evolution, but without pressure. And without judgment.
So it's about awareness.
Yeah, it's just first about awareness, and then what is the next step from awareness? How do I, my conditioning leads to this behavior today. You don't have to say forever. Today, how can I do something slightly differently? And then when you do little slightly differently, and then next day slightly differently, then perhaps you are back to the same conditioning. Then you see with amusement, look how there is a conditioning and how it creates a pressure. But it doesn't mean that it will always, I'll be only here. Next time. Little things, right? And done with leisure, done with love, done with lucidity, viveka, it becomes beautiful. Freeing yourself from all the smallness which you don't need, because which prevents you from enjoying, which prevents you from just, life is a gift, and we have not come here to suffer. We have not come on this earth to, we've come to know the truth and to celebrate life. So anything which prevents you from celebrating life because of your conditioning, then to free yourself from that conditioning is a source of great pleasure. Why? Because it frees you from your own self-created boundaries, which don't allow you to.
Knowing the conditions are not true.
Yeah, exactly. And also knowing, look at your privilege, that you know the final reality within which all these little changes have to take place. And why not? Right? Anybody who tells me, this is a common thing. Anybody who tells me that, oh, now if I am the whole, if I'm awareness, why should I take care of my mind? Very common. I ask them, do you use the same logic? Suppose you got hurt. Do you tell yourself, I'm not the body, why should I take care? Do you say that? No. You immediately take care. So what is so different about the mind? Why is this denial? This denial of mind means that you are giving mind a reality. If you want to, mind is just like body. It needs to be taken care of. And if you have to take care of it and you take care of it, it's wonderful. And only then, actually, this is only when you take care of it, you will be able to enjoy the freedom that you are. Otherwise, the mind will keep restricting you. So, conditioning, all of us have. There is nothing, this thing. And acknowledging and freeing yourself becomes a life project and enjoyable project. Make it enjoyable. Not like, oh my God, I'm stuck. That is again, see, everything we make heavy. There's no need. That is our own thinking which makes everything so heavy. You can do everything. Everything you can do with certain sense of lightness and playfulness, but sincerity and responsibility. time.
20.
Thank you. Thank you.
When it comes to decision making in
Yeah.
situations, I read a good question that helps me when I remind of it. And the question is, what would a person do who loves itself? You know, after such an analysis, I acknowledge the conditioning, and then it comes to decision making.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this question is really helpful for me.
Yeah. I will end with a small story. See how this conditioning is something which is so deep rooted, right? So I grew up in a family success. There's like a whole thing. My father was a high achiever, and you have to be the best in everything and all. So as a kid, you take on all these pressures, right? I mean, even though he didn't put pressure, you take on the pressure, right? You have to be the best. So how does it show up? I'll tell you. It's small things it shows up. So I was working full time, and I was just teaching Sundays just for my hobby. I had, I was working, and I had studied, so I said I'll teach. I put so much pressure on myself that suppose the class was on Sunday at 6:00, right? This class had no real bearing on me at all. But from 5:00, I'll be worried. How many people will come? If 3 people were missing, am I a bad teacher? Why did they drop out? Do you understand? And it's not like I was not charging a single rupee because I was working. I didn't need any money at that time. Now I'm a full-time teacher, so I have to survive. But there was no consequence to my life, but I had so much pressure. I put so much pressure on myself. This is a habit. Now I recognize it, right? I said I'm doing it for enjoyment, but I'm only getting stressed out. And you have to laugh at it, right? Instead of hiding it, you have to laugh at this silly way of thinking, which everything which is done for pleasure also becomes source of stress and source of judgment. I'm not good. Maybe I could be better teacher. All this is your own story. You're telling yourself and making everything so difficult for yourself.
You were talking about laughing. I think the most important thing that I can laugh about myself.
Absolutely.
Because I'm such a source of laughter. So
exactly. So what you tell yourself is, hey, this is this so-called high achiever who's constantly putting pressure. And now I can do things differently. Right? How can I do things differently? Enjoy, right? And then whoever, even if you have to tell, self-talk. Even if there are 5 people, what is his pressure that everybody has to be there? Where is his pressure coming from? If they are interested, they'll come. If they are not interested, they'll not come. That doesn't reflect on you. And yes, as a teacher, instead of worrying about how many students will come, perhaps I can study the verses. That is much more productive use of time, right? Doing my job well. Concentrate on that. See, the mind is frivolous. It goes here and there. It creates traumas. It creates all these, it overwhelms you. Then you have to quietly bring it back to the realities. Nicely, and don't condemn yourself. While you're doing that, don't tell yourself, oh my God, I'm just so driven by like that and I'll never change and I'm so, still not spiritual. I've become a teacher and I still have all these problems. Don't say that. Do you understand? Right?
Yeah.
Clear. Just there's one drama to the other drama. Just really, be prayerful, be alert, do what needs to be done. The mind is going this way, gently bring it back. If it goes that way, gently bring it back without any, condemning yourself or putting pressure on others. Once you get into your stories, then you say, "No, I'm giving so much of myself. Look at those ignorant people; they don't even realize the importance." These are all just stories. You don't need any of this drama in your life. Because you feel defeated, then there is another compensation. You condemn them. And it goes on and on and on and on, and we lose track of where we are going. So the minute it goes back, if you're clever, this is what we call awareness or acknowledging. Just gently bring it back. If one day it'll go there, gently bring it back. Next day it'll go there, gently bring it back. Then life becomes fun. Because mind's nature is to go here and there. And you gently bring it back. And what happens is, bring the teaching. Let the teaching grow. Let the teaching grow. So all your vision, everything changes. Slowly, slowly lift yourself up.
Nice. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you. So afternoon class is Introduction to Vedanta, and from tomorrow I'll start the 20 values.
I didn't get the last thing. Tomorrow you start the...
Because I haven't yet started the 20 values.